Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive in. This time we're taking a look at, excerpts from a memoir by a pretty well-known actor.
Oh, yeah, this one.
Yeah, this one. And it's it's more than just like, oh, here's my life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking for those big moments,
Yeah.
the struggles, what made him who he is kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what I found really interesting was that he, blends his personal stories with his thoughts about acting itself.
Right.
It's not just about remembering lines or, hitting your mark. It's
Right.
like he's searching for some deeper meaning, both on stage and just in life.
Absolutely. And so let's begin right where his story does. The Ellesmere Theater, which is this big old fancy movie palace. Picture this practically empty, except for our actor and a friend.
Wow.
And they go to see Chekhov's The Seagull, it's a pivotal moment for him. It kind of changes everything.
Yeah, you can just feel the weight of that moment, like this grand, almost empty theater.
Right.
And this very intimate performance. And he talks about Constantine's suicide and how it was like, boom, it just hit him. The power of theater. And that's when his own artistic fire is lit.
And get this, he starts carrying around Chekhov's works everywhere.
Oh.
Literally calls him a friend he can keep in his pocket.
Wow, a pocket-sized friend.
Exactly. But let's jump ahead a bit to his time at the High School of Performing Arts. He describes 42nd Street, just this electric energy, and he's seeing all these big-time performers. He even casually mentions seeing Paul Newman just walking around.
Just like a normal guy.
Yeah, like it's no big deal.
It's crazy to think about, for a young, aspiring actor to see these huge stars just existing.
Yeah.
It makes it real, oh, maybe I can do this too.
Right, totally. And then there's this wild story about his friend Cliffy and their speech teacher. Now, I gotta warn you, this is a bit out there. So Cliffy, he wasn't exactly known for being appropriate.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Decides to, touch the teacher's breasts.
Wow.
Right in the middle of class.
Oh, my.
Yeah, no, right? And it says a lot about Cliffy's personality. He just didn't care about consequences. You could even argue it foreshadows his struggles later with, addiction and his tragic end.
It's like he's living on the edge, but it goes too far.
Exactly. It makes you think about that fine line between taking risks and completely losing control. And such a contrast to the path our actor takes, right? And speaking of his path, he starts getting those early acting gigs and figuring out what it really means to be a working actor.
Mm-hmm.
There's this part where he talks about seeing the guy who played Constantine in The Seagull, but he's working at a Howard Johnson's.
Wow, what a reality check.
Right. It wasn't all glamour and fame. It was like, okay, this is the real world. I got to pay the bills.
Yeah, the less glamorous side of things.
Exactly. But it doesn't deter him at all. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about his relationship with his mother. He describes her as very fragile, drawn to Hollywood and all that, deeply affected by things like, James Dean's death.
Yeah.
And you can tell their relationship was really complicated, shaped by her struggles and everything.
Mm.
There's this really sad story about a broken engagement. She was devastated, and in a moment of just, teenage insensitivity, he blurts out, well, it's too good to be true anyway.
Right.
And later, you can just feel the regret.
Ooh.
Yeah, like a total cringe moment.
It's raw, honest.
Yeah, and then things get worse. Her mental health takes a hit, bills pile up, and there's pressure for him to drop out of school to help out.
A lot to handle at that age.
It is. But what's interesting is that he doesn't seem bitter about leaving school. It's almost like he accepts it as part of his path. And he just starts taking these odd jobs, bicycle messenger, working at Commentary magazine, just constantly hustling.
Resilience, right? He just keeps going.
Yeah, totally. And there's this weird incident where he's supposed to be in a photo for the Herald Tribune representing his school, but then he gets replaced at the last minute.
Really?
Yeah, he kind of hints at prejudice, but doesn't dwell on it, just moves on.
Wow, that's something else.
It is. And now we come to a really important person, Charlie Lawton.
Okay.
There's more than just a drinking buddy. He becomes a mentor, a real source of wisdom for our actor. They meet at a bar, and it's this instant connection.
It's amazing how some people just click like that.
Right. And Charlie introduces him to all these great books, really expands his world beyond just acting. But what really sticks with him is this philosophy Charlie has about life.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the philosophy?
Well, it all comes from a story about the Flying Wallendas.
The tightrope walkers.
Yeah, them. They had this terrible accident, and when someone asked the father why they'd keep performing after something so tragic, he simply said, because life's on the wire. The rest is just waiting.
Whoa.
I know, right? And that phrase becomes this guiding principle for our actor, this idea of taking risks, pushing your limits, really living in the moment.
Even when it's scary.
Exactly. It's not just about acting anymore. It's a way of life.
That's powerful.
And to really show how serious he is about this whole lice on the wire thing, there's this story about him needing money. He travels all the way to Far Rockaway just to see Charlie. Hours on buses and trains.
Wow. That's dedication.
But get this, the whole time he's reading Balzac, Baudelaire. It's like the journey itself becomes part of his education.
He's not wasting any time.
Nope. And they even work together as movers, hauling furniture, boxes of books, and of course he throws in this hilarious story about getting distracted by a Christmas party and getting fired.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But even in these kind of everyday moments, you can see his personality shining through.
Yeah.
Determined, curious, and always finding a way to laugh.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to take himself too seriously.
Not at all. But let's not forget that during all this, he's battling poverty, this very real struggle to survive.
Right. It wasn't all fun and games.
Definitely not. He talks about collecting bottles for cash, finding refuge in libraries and automats just to stay warm and get a cheap meal.
It's hard to imagine.
It is, but even with all that, he never loses sight of his artistic passion. You'll find him reciting Shakespeare on the streets, constantly working on his craft.
Wow, that's commitment.
It is. It really is. And then we get this little peek into his relationship with his father. And it's clear they're just not on the same page. His dad invites him to Los Angeles, but the invitation is all about taking some girls off his hands.
What?
Yeah, it completely misses the mark. You know what his dad is trying to do is nice in his own way, but...
Yeah, it just shows how different their worlds are, their values.
Absolutely. It's this missed connection. And that's what we'll pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore. Picking up where we left off, things get a little rocky with his mentor, Charlie. He doesn't really say what happened, but you can feel how much it affected him.
Yeah, it's like losing a lifeline, right? Like he's adrift.
Yeah.
He even mentions calling his grandfather from a payphone, just pouring his heart out. It's really raw.
And his grandfather's response is so sweet. He's like, come home, live with me. You can just hear the love and concern. What a guy.
That's really touching. It sounds like his grandfather was a real pillar of strength for him.
Absolutely. But he chooses to stay in the village. Like he just can't let go of this dream of being an artist, even if it means, facing all this hardship. He even turns down a construction job that his grandfather went to great lengths to get for him.
Wow, that's a tough call. But it shows you how committed he was to his art.
Yeah, it would have been so easy to just play it safe. But he's driven by something bigger, And then, like it wasn't tough enough already, bam, tragedy hits again. He loses both his mother and grandfather in a really short time.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. He talks about his mother's death being kind of shrouded in mystery. Maybe drugs were involved. It's not totally clear. But the image that stuck with me was him describing his grandfather's grief. Just this heavy, silent sadness.
It's powerful, isn't it? The kind of grief that just takes your breath away.
It is. And he talks about wishing he'd had more time, Like he could have helped his mother if he had just a little longer. That kind of regret. It's got to be hard to live with.
It is, but it also shows how much he cared about her.
Oh, absolutely. And he talks about her character, her intelligence, how much she loved the arts, and how poverty really held her back. It's sad, It makes you think about all the people whose dreams get crushed just because of their circumstances.
It does. It's a reminder that talent and potential don't always have an equal playing field.
That's for sure. But here's the thing. Even after all this, he doesn't give up. He keeps going, takes on all sorts of odd jobs, usher at the Rivoli Theater, delivering show business newspapers. And all the while, he's still fighting his own demons.
He's a fighter, that's for sure.
He is. He talks about drinking, taking pills, trying to numb the pain, but he doesn't sugarcoat it. He's honest about how destructive it can be.
It's refreshing, not making excuses, but just telling it like it is.
Exactly. And he still manages to find humor in those dark times. He tells this hilarious story about getting fired from the Rivoli because he spent too much time staring at himself in the candy counter mirror.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the one in Four Sides. He couldn't resist.
Oh, man, that's classic.
It is. And, he's so observant. Like, he makes up a song while he's delivering papers in the pouring rain. And he has this whole system for making a single cup of coffee last for hours at the automat.
He's resourceful.
Totally. And he really loves reading. Books are like his refuge, his escape from everything.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes a good book is the best company.
Right. And then there's this big turning point. He goes to the Actors Gallery.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a game changer. He gets a part in Strindberg's creditors. And during one performance, he has this epiphany. Like everything clicks into place.
Strindberg. Intense stuff. It's not hard to see why that play would resonate with him, given everything he'd been through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he describes it as if he's lifting off the ground, his voice finally ringing true. Like all those years of struggling, all the sacrifices, it all led to this moment.
Wow, what a moment that must have been. The culmination of so much hard work and pain finally paying off.
It is. He even says, I want to do this forever. And you can tell he means it. It's not about fame or money. It's about the pure love of the craft.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Finding your purpose like that.
It really is. And it all goes back to that first experience at the Ellesmere Theater, that spark of inspiration that ignited his passion.
Full circle.
Exactly. But we can't talk about this period without mentioning another important person who comes into his life, Marty Sheen.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, they meet in Charlie Lawton's acting class. And right away, there's this recognition, this mutual respect. They become close roommates even, and they work together at the Living Theater.
The Living Theater. Now, that's a name that carries some weight.
It does. And he talks about seeing Sheen perform this monologue from The Iceman Cometh. He's like, this is a star being born. Even compares him to James Dean.
High praise.
It is. And he just throws in these little stories about Sheen's early career, his personal life, like how Sheen was determined to play a specific role in a play they saw at the Living Theater. And years later, he actually did it.
That's amazing. Talk about manifesting your dreams.
Right. And there's this sweet story about Sheen meeting his future wife, Janet. It's like a reminder that love can bloom even in the middle of all the chaos.
It's heartwarming. It reminds you that even famous people have those basic human needs for love and connection.
Absolutely. And he talks about the Living Theater itself, this hub for all these experimental, groundbreaking plays.
Yeah, that was a wild time for theater, pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo.
It was. And our actors still hustling, doing children's shows, performing in cafes, always trying to get better and make ends meet.
Always learning, always growing.
Always. And get this, he mentions Joan Baez hanging out at his apartment.
Really? Wow, that's quite a scene.
It is. It really paints a picture of the whole art scene back then. Everyone connected, this creative energy flowing everywhere.
A real community.
Yeah. But then we hear about Cliffy again. He's back from the army and struggling with addiction. It's heartbreaking, you know. You can feel how much it hurts our actor to see his friend going down this path.
It's tough, isn't it? Watching someone you care about self-destruct and feeling powerless to stop it.
It is. And he tells this harrowing story about Cliffy and the brig. It just shows you how fearless Cliffy was, even when he was in trouble.
There's a certain kind of strength in that, even if it's misdirected.
Yeah. Cliffy was a complex guy. But it's a reminder that life can be really unpredictable. Even when you're surrounded by art and excitement, there are still dark corners, you know?
Definitely. And sometimes you just can't save the people you love from making bad choices.
True. And then comes this big moment, a chance to audition for Elia Kazan for the movie America. America.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. But he misses the audition. And the first thing he thinks about isn't the missed opportunity, it's his mother.
Wow. That says a lot about his priorities. It shows how much he wanted to take care of her, to make a better life for her.
Yeah, his ambition wasn't just about him. He wanted to use his success to help the people he loved. But sometimes life doesn't give you that chance, you know?
It doesn't. It's a good reminder to appreciate the people in your life while you can.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the next chapter. A chapter filled with even more highs and lows, with the pursuit of his dream and the weight of his past always there. We've seen him go from this wide-eyed kid at the Ellesmere Theater to a dedicated artist finding his voice at the Actors Gallery. And in part 3, we'll see how he takes all those experiences and becomes the actor we know today. We left off with that missed audition, and it really got me thinking about how much his mother was on his mind. Like, even as he was chasing his own dreams, her struggles were always there.
It's like he's carrying that weight with him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then he gets the news that she's gone.
Yeah.
He describes it in such detail. You can just feel the rawness of it all.
That scene where he gets to his grandparents' place and they're just standing there, the lights on, tears in their eyes. It's just...
heartbreaking.
Yeah. He captures that feeling of grief so well, that silence.
And he doesn't shy away from the fact that there are questions surrounding her death.
Right. Like, was it intentional or accidental? It's left open.
But what I found really admirable is that he doesn't dwell on the blame. He focuses on her struggles, her vulnerabilities.
He shows a lot of compassion, even in his pain.
He does, but you can still sense that guilt, you know, that feeling of, What if I could have done more?
Yeah, that what if can really eat at you.
It can, and he talks about how smart she was, how much she loved the arts,
Hmm.
and how poverty really trapped her.
It's a sad reminder that not everyone gets a fair shot.
It is, but here's the thing. Even in the midst of all this grief, he finds a way to keep going. He uses that pain to fuel his creativity.
It's like art becomes his outlet, his way of processing it all.
It does. He talks about feeling lost, confused,
Mm-hmm.
but he keeps working, keeps hustling.
Resilience. Pure and simple.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just about him anymore. It's like he feels this responsibility to make something of his life, to honor her memory.
I can see that. Like he's carrying her dreams with him.
Yeah, and we hear about his struggles with alcohol, pills, trying to escape the pain.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, though. He's honest about the dark side of it all.
He is, and that honesty is what makes him so relatable.
Yeah.
He's not just some successful actor. He's a real person struggling with real stuff.
Exactly.
And then he introduces us to his grandfather. Tells these amazing stories about his life. Run away at 9 years old, working on a coal truck, traveling with a group of kids. It's incredible.
Wow, that sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? And his grandfather eventually becomes this skilled plasterer.
Quite a journey. Talk about overcoming adversity.
Right. And there's this funny little anecdote about his grandfather meeting Katharine Hepburn on a job site.
Really? That's great.
I know, right? It's these little moments of humor that really bring his story to life. And so while he's dealing with his grief and finding inspiration in his grandfather's tales, he starts connecting with other artists in the village.
Finding his community, his tribe.
Exactly. He talks about Tommy Negron, this piano tuner who lets him crash at his place, and Alec Rubin, an actor's studio guy who starts giving him roles in plays.
These are the people who make all the difference, aren't they? The ones who offer a helping hand when you need it most.
They are, and it's a reminder that even in a competitive field like acting, there's still room for kindness and support.
Absolutely.
And then there's this moment of pure serendipity. He bumps into his old dispatcher from his bike messenger days, Frank Biancamano.
Okay.
And get this, Biancamano is now running the Actors Gallery in Soho.
Wow, what are the chances?
Right. It's like fate stepped in and brought him right back to where he needed to be.
Sometimes things just fall into place like that. It's amazing.
It is. So he auditions for Biancamano, who immediately sees his potential and casts him in all these challenging roles.
This is where his career really starts to take off, right?
It is. Biancamano becomes his mentor, guides him, pushes him to explore his talents.
What a great opportunity to have someone believe in you like that.
It was. And then, of course, there's that breakthrough performance in Creditors, one where he feels like he's lifting off the ground.
Powerful stuff.
It is. And he says, I want to do this forever. And it's not about fame or money. It's about the pure joy of expressing himself.
He's found his calling.
He has. And it all started with that one spark of inspiration at the Ellesmere Theater. All those years of struggle, sacrifice, they all led to this.
It's a beautiful story, really inspiring.
It is. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, what really sticks with me is his resilience.
Me too.
He went through so much. Loss, hardship, his own personal demons. But he never gave up on his dream.
It's a reminder that we all have that strength inside us, that ability to overcome obstacles and achieve our goals, no matter how difficult things get.
That's right. And his story reminds us of the power of art, the importance of human connection. It gives us hope. It shows us that even in the darkest of times, there's always a reason to keep going, to keep creating, to keep believing in the beauty and possibility of life.
Beautifully said. And as we leave our listeners to ponder this journey, maybe we can offer them that same piece of advice that guided our actor. Life's on the wire. The rest is just waiting.
That's a good one. So to all our listeners out there, what are you waiting for? What risks are you willing to take? What dreams are you holding on to? Take that leap of faith, embrace the unknown,